It wasn't on.
No. No. Okay, Daf. Oh, where are we holding? Where are we holding? We're holding Dafites Amud on the bottom. She is in Ishmas Abed Moide, Yaakov Yehuda ben Shalom Yosef Reine Kapas Mishkabay. And I guess the Ishmas, this young woman, and it's chus for her son, Tunik ben Lezel Shavu for Shlomo. Amen. Okay. What we were discussing until now, we're starting to get into the whole Kiddush HaChodesh thing, slowly easing us into it. Right now, we're still discussing the concept of whether the other, if you make it a leap year, to make it a second other, is it 29 days or is it 30 days, or could both be 30 days, or could both be 29 days? We have different opinions. Some say that it has to be the first one is a full one, 30 days, and the second other is going to be always a missing one, 29 days. Some say it could both be missing. Some say it could both be full. Some saying it. So there was a prince in Bavel. His name is Ma'ukva. He was one of the princes, one of the Reish Galusa, one of the leaders in exile, and he was known to have trying to establish a calendar on a normal basis. And he had correspondence with the Talmid Chacham in Atzisal. So the Gemara is going to say, Shalchalei, 5 lines in the bottom, Shalchalei Ma'ukva, that I sent a message from Atzisal. You set up the calendar, and the Shalayim is the place that we make the Kiddush HaChodesh. So I'll tell you like this. They sent him a message, Odal hasamuch l'Nisan l'oilam chasa. The Odal that is closest to Nisan, as we have today, is always going to be 29 days. If it is no Ibad Yad, if it's just one Odal, then that Odal will be 29 days. If there are two Odals, so the first Odal could be, what doesn't say here, it could be 30 days, could be 29 days, but the second Odal is always going to be 29 days. Now if you think about it, if the second Odal is always 29 days, yeah, then comes Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. A couple days later, messengers show up in Bavel and tell the people in Bavel, Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni was on that and that day. Okay, and now according to this rule, all they have to do is count 29 days plus another 15 days to get the Pesach. Because if it's always 29 days, you don't have to wait for messengers. The Gemara is going to ask even a stronger question. The Gemarrah Nafchaf Aleph Ahmed Beis on top says that in the times of Beis Hamikdash, they had to know every Rosh Chodesh when to bring the korban of the Musa of Rosh Chodesh. So if the 29th day of the previous month was on a Friday night, two witnesses could have seen the moon, and what if two witnesses saw the moon Friday night? They're allowed to travel on Shabbos out of the Tchum to bring a witness statement that they saw the moon. Yeah, so Mechal is a Shabbos. They're allowed to Mechal Shabbos. When the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed and he didn't have to bring the Chodesh anymore, so they said 2 months of the year, you could still Mechal Shabbos. What?
What do they do with that?
Tchum Shabbos. So they walk out of more than 2,000 mil. What if the Beis Hamikdash, once the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Mishnah says that 2 months of the year you still were allowed to Mechal Shabbos. Why? Because again, like we said in the beginning, those 2 months had ramifications if you got their date wrong. Pesach and Rosh Hashana. Pesach is if you eat chametz on Pesach, and the second one was Rosh Hashana because you have to know when Yom Kippur is. Okay, so in these two months, you were Mechal Shabbos. The Gemara asks a question simply: why did we allow the shluchim to Mechal Shabbos, the Eidim, the witness, to come to Yerushalayim and pass the Tchum for Rosh Chodesh Nisan? If we know when Rosh Chodesh Adar is, and we know we count 29 days, and you now go into Nisan, why do you have to Mechal Shabbos? So it must be that the statement that was sent to Ma'ukva is not correct. So the Gemara, the Adar that is close to Nisan is always missing. Masiv Rav Nachman asked the question: Al Shnei Chadoshim Mechal Shabbos, 2 months of the year you're still Mechal Shabbos. That's what Mishnah and Chaf Aleph Amud Beis on top. Al Nisan ve'al Tishrei. If you say that Adar Zimnin Mal, Zimnin Chassid, we don't know if others going to be 30 days or 29 days, then fine. That's why a Chodesh Nisan, you tell the witness you can be Mechal Shabbos. But if you say it's always 29 days, why are you Mechal Shabbos on a Chodesh Nisan if you know it's 29 days? And for the Gemarrah, the mitzvah, because there's a mitzvah, even though you know the date, there's still a mitzvah, you see the moon, be Mekadesh it. So there's a mitzvah to Mekadesh it. Okay? So this part of the Gemarrah basically goes, a statement that Man Ukvat was told 29 days. Rav Nachman asks on the statement, the Gemarrah answers, there's still a mitzvah Mekadesh, even if it's 29 days. The next part is the same Gemarrah, just in a different order, that Rav Nachman is not asking, Rav Nachman is confirming. So basically, the Mukva said 29 days. The other Samach Nisan is always 29 days. The 30th day is a Chodesh. Amar Rav Nachman, 3 lines from the top on Chaf Amud Aleph. Amar Nachman Afananam and Tanina. We also learned in Abaysa al Shnei in our Mishnah al Shnei Chadashim Mechal Shabbos, 2 Chadashim were Mechal Shabbos al Nisan ve'al Tishrei, and it says the opposite way. If you say that it's Chasar, that you know when the date is going to be, so now you know that the only reason why we with the shluchim after Mechal Shabbos, it tells it's a mitzvah. Mishum the mitzvah l'kadosh aliyah, because it's a mitzvah to Mekadesh aliyah, and so now this shows proof that it's a mitzvah l'kadosh aliyah. But if you say that the Chodesh Adar could be 29 days or 30 days, so you're basically telling me that it could be 30 days. It does not have to be 29 days. If Shabbos falls out to be the 30th day, tell them to come the next morning. It's not the people that send Ma'ukva the message, they had a cheshbon that other always has to be 29 days. Exact cheshbon, and then they applied it with mitzvah the kiddush aliyah. That's where the shluchim can come. But if you could make it 30 days or 29 days, it doesn't make a difference. Make it in a way that the shluchim are not mechal Shabbos. The next morning they'll also be mekadesh al piyadiyah. They'll still happen. But you don't have a reason to say only 29 days like the Ma'ukva. You say it's 30 also. But if you say sometimes other could be Mali, could be 30 days, or sometimes Chazak could be 29 days, it doesn't make a difference. Why do you say that we have to Mechal Shabbos? Let's make Chodesh Adar a full month, 30 days, and 31st is going to be a Chodesh. On Sunday, the Eidim will come and we'll make Kiddush HaChodesh the next day. Basically, even though they saw the moon Friday night, but he pushed them off. You'll see the Gemarrah says different reasons why you could push them off. If it's not that important, push it off a day. What's going on with Pesach? Anyways, whenever the Bezdin says that it's Mekudash, that's the date that counts. It doesn't make a difference. They can start playing around with it. So Pesach will be a day later. But it will be according to Torah. Pesach will be a day later. But there's no 29, there was a specific reason why 29. And if you stick to the guns and 29 has to be 29, the only reason is, Kiddush HaChodesh for you lot of Mechal Shabbos. But if you don't have the reason of 29, and you could come the 30th day, you could still do Kiddush HaChodesh, and you don't have to Mechal Shabbos. So that's basically, that's what the Gemarrah is asking. So that's what Achman is saying. So if it's 29 days, Kiddush HaChodesh, come on Shabbos. But if it's 29 days or 30 days, come on Sunday. So the Gemarrah, no, it doesn't make sense. That is all good if that is all good if if the 29th day of Chodesh Adar falls out on a Friday. So Friday night, Eidim could see the moon. Okay? And we tell them Shabbos was supposed to be a Chodesh Nisan. Don't come Shabbos, come Sunday. That's fine. What happens if the Thursday was 29 days? Thursday night, no one saw the moon. Friday comes, Friday is the 30th day. That night, if they see the moon, they will have to make a Chodesh anyways. They'll have to make the 31st day. But do we say that we allow the Eidim to come on the 31st day, even though it's Shabbos? So, Doctor, you still have a mitzvah l'kadosh aliyah. So, will you anyways allow the shluchim to walk on the 31st day, the Mechal Shabbos, even though it's already Chodesh. So basically, what the Gemarrah is asking, that it could be that you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos even if you say that Rosh Chodesh is not, the other is not 29 days but 30 days. So basically, the Nachman was trying to say, if Adar is always 29 days, the only reason that Shluchim should come on Shabbos, if Shabbos is the 30th day in order to make it Rosh Chodesh, because the mitzvah L'Kadosh Al Pi L'Iyah. But the Gemarrah is countering and saying, no, that if Shabbos is the 31st day, and that's the first time Shluchim see the Levana, that the Friday night, they still have to come because it's still a mitzvah to L'Kadosh Al Pi L'Iyah. So basically, you can't tell me that only if it's 29 days, then the Shluchim could come on Shabbos. Even if it's 30 days, Shluchim could still come on Shabbos. So the Gemarrah is basically knocking down Rab Nachman's proof. What we're basically saying over here is, a quick recap, that Ukva got a message from Atzisol to tell him that the Adar, which is closest to Nisan, is always 29 days. And the first part of the Gemarrah was asking a question, if it's only 29 days, how could he say in the following Mishnah that the Shluchim are allowed to be Mechal Shabbos? If you know when Rosh Chodesh is going to be, you can't be Mechal Shabbos. And the answer is because there's still a mitzvah Mekadosh Al Pi L'Iyah. Then the Gemara asks the opposite way. Now the Gemara is going to come ask a question, and he's going to knock down the whole thing, and basically knock down his whole statement of 29 days, that Adar, the closest to Nisan, is 29 days. There must have been a misunderstanding in the messaging. So we are like 10 lines from the top. Masiv Rav Kahana. The Mishnah continues to Nafchaf Aleph and Aleph, and it says, "Kasha Migdash Kayim, when the Migdash was still standing, Mechalin Al Kulam Mipnei Takonos HaKolbim." Every single Rosh Chodesh, if it fell on Shabbos, the Eidim were allowed to walk to Yerushalayim even if they crossed the Tchum, because they had to know if to bring the Kolban of Rosh Chodesh, Musaf of Rosh Chodesh that day or not. That's Takonos HaKolbim. Says Rav Kahana, Mi de Kulu Lav Mishum the Mitzvah L'Kadosh Al L'Iyah. When the Beis HaMikdash was standing, the reason the Eidim came on Shabbos was not because there's a mitzvah to sanctify the moon when you see it, L'Kadosh Al L'Iyah, but the mitzvah, the reason was because they had to know when to bring the Kolban. So Nisan v'Tisha Nami, Nisan v'Tisha is the same thing, La B'Shum the mitzvah L'Kadosh Al L'Iyah, that Nisan v'Tisha also, they did not come because it's a mitzvah L'Kadosh Al L'Iyah, but because of Kolban. So if that's the case, in the times of Beis HaMikdash, when you have to know when the Korban is, when you have to know when the Korban is, so now, if you say that Adar is always 29 days, then you know when to bring the Korban. Why does the Mishnah say that you can walk on Chodesh Nisan? The Eidim can walk across the Tchum on Chodesh Nisan. If the reason is knowing when to bring the Korban Musaf, not Kadosh Al Pi L'Iyah, nothing to do with that. Pasha to know the right date. The right date, you know by counting the right number of days. You know when a Chodesh Adar is, Chodesh Adar Shana edition is, and you count exactly 29 days, and you know when a Chodesh Nisan is. So why did the Mishnah say that at the time of Beis HaMikdash, or even after the time of Beis HaMikdash, that on Chodesh Nisan you're allowed to walk in, you're allowed to Mechal Shabbos? If you say that others sometimes full, sometimes missing something 29 days, that's why the Mechal Shabbos, because we don't know when Chodesh Nisan is going to fall out. If you say that it's always 29 days, and the only reason that we need to know when Chodesh is because of a Kalban, you know when Chodesh is. Says the Gemarrah to Yufta, yes, this statement of Ukva to say that other is always, the other closest to Nisan is always 29 days, was knocked down. Today we actually go by it, and the Gemara is later going to say why. But today we actually follow this thing that the other closest to Nisan is 29 days.
How do you get rid of the mitzvah L'Kadosh Al L'Iyah? It's still a mitzvah L'Kadosh Al L'Iyah, even if you.
But that's not the reason why Mechal Shabbos. That's not the reason why Mechal Shabbos. It could be that at times when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, there were a lot of Mechal Shabbos on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and Tisha was again because that whole thing came down, because we didn't know what date it was. Finally, we're saying there's no 29 days. So the reason they're walking, even though the Beis HaMikdash is not standing, is we have to know when Yom Kippur is going to be, when Pesach is going to be. But in times of Beis HaMikdash, it was only because of Kol, but not because of Mekadosh Al L'Iyah. Once you see the moon, you have a mitzvah Mekadosh, but that's not why you're Mechal Shabbos. Once you see the moon, you're Mekadosh Al L'Iyah, but you're not Mechal Shabbos because you saw the moon at the right time. Okay. Yeah.
But
Okay, Zak the Gemarrah weiter. Also Ula. So Ula was a world traveler, and Ula spent time in Israel, and he came now to Israel. So before we had someone send a message to Ma'ukva. Okay, Ma'ukva was in the time of check it up. I forgot who it was in the time of Abiyun and Asin at Israel, or a little bit later. Anyways, Ula traveled. He came from Israel. Omar, he told the people in Bavel, Abu Elul, make Elul 30 days. So Elul is going to be 30 days. The 31st day is going to be Rosh Hashana. That's what he told the people in Bavel to do, because that's what we do in Israel. And then he adds, Omar Ula. Ula said, Yadi Chavein Bavloid, my Bavlian friends, my friends in Bavel, do they know my Tivusa of Dina Badai, what kind of great service, a great favor that the Saldiga people did for the Bavelites, that they added a day in Elul? So the mother by Tivusa, what kind of a good thing? Ula Amad, so Ula explained, what's the good thing? Mishum Yalkaya, because of vegetables. What's shot? That back in the days they didn't have refrigeration. So you picked vegetables every day to eat. What if Chodesh Elul falls out in a way that, let's say, Rosh Hashana is one day Shabbos, one day Yom Tov, so Shabbos and Sunday is Rosh Hashana, or the opposite, Friday is Rosh Hashana, and Friday is Rosh Hashana, then the next day is Shabbos. So you don't have fresh fruits on the second day, whatever day falls out, Shabbos or Yom Tov, I don't have fresh fruits. So in order to allow the people to eat fresh fruits, we added, when needed, we added a day in Elul to make sure to separate Shabbos and Yom Tov. So that's what Ula says, Mishum Yakaya. Of Acha Bachanina Amal, Mishum Messiah, because of the dead. And Ashi explains, we're not talking about Yom Tov now, because there is a halacha, let's say like this, if someone Chaz Hashem passes away the first day of Yom Tov, first day of Yom Tov, there's a halacha that the goyim could be mekabel. Goyim allowed to be buried there. Yeah. Second day Yom Tov, Yid is also allowed to. Second day Yom Tov is also allowed to. As a side note, now we're coming from Shavuos, there's a famous machlokes in the world when the Baal Shem Tov passed away. If it was the first day of Yom Tov, the second day of Yom Tov. Many people say he passed away the second day of Yom Tov. Why? The second day of Yom Tov, then he Yidden buried him. But we have a Kabbalah that it was first day. Because the year that he passed away, Shavuos was Wednesday, Thursday. And it says, the Alter Rebbe told us many years ago that B'yom Levi, Nitla Moyas, Yom Levi, not La Moyas, so that they both happened on Wednesday. So basically, Baal Shem Tov passed away on Wednesday. So over the years, there was many discussions. The Rebbe Shab wrote that it was discussed many times what happened then. If the Baal Shem Tov passed away on Wednesday, on the first day of Yom Tov, only Goyim allowed to Mekabel. And Baal Shem Tov's body was handled by Goyim. You can't say that. So on the second day of Yom Tov, if he passed away, fine. But you don't wait a second day. The Rebbe in the Sikh and Chelek Dal discusses it. But an interesting point I saw in the Tikkun and the Shuas in the back, that Avram Ayol said in the name of the Leivik, the Rebbe's father, that at one time the Rebbe Shab was sitting by a meal, and they were discussing this concept, and the Rebbe Shab said that we spoke about it often in Lubavitch. When exactly did it happen? When did he pass away? When was he buried? The Rebbe Shab once mentioned to say that just like by Moshe Rabbeinu it says Layoda Ishus Kvudasoi, that we don't know where he's buried. So he used the same lashon and said Layoda Ishus Kvudasoi. We don't know how he was buried. We don't know how the Baal Shem Tov was buried. But the Bleivik asked the Rebbe Shab. The Rebbe Shab mentioned again that he was passed away on the first day. The Bleivik asked the question. So Bazoi Goyim can't say that. He can't say he waited a day. So Rabbi Yom Ayal said that he heard that the Rebbe Shab tell the Bleivik who covers Atzmoi, that the Baal Shem Tov buried himself. We know that when it came to the Tvila, the Tahara, the Baal Shem Tov did himself as part of it. But this was it's interesting.
He wasn't after the first day, but he buried himself. That's basically the
Yeah, but there's actually in the Sichas to talk of different things. It says that it's possible that it was buried on the second day, because the Baal Shem Tov, on the day of his death, he called in the Chevel Kadisha and discussed with them the Chevel Kadisha and discussed with them certain things, Kabbalah, etc., what to do exactly. And Allah says that if, in order to do the will of the mace, you can postpone it. So they had to go through all the tikkunim and takonas and all the different things that they had to learn in order to do everything properly. So it was second day. Some people say no, that Bechal they waited the day after because of it was Adam Chashiv, you can wait an extra day. In any case, that was what's it called? But what's the tikkun mishum Messiah? Rab Acha b'Chanina chafam at Aleph mishum Messiah. So why do we add a day in Elul to make it 30 days? Rab Acha b'Chanina says mishum Messiah. If Yom Kippur falls out on Friday, Yom Kippur is not a Yom Tov. Yom Kippur is Shabbos Shabbosin. So you can't touch a dead body, not a goy, not a Yid. So if someone dies Chas v'Shalom on Friday, if Yom Kippur is on Friday, then he's not going to be buried until Matzah Shabbos. It's 2 days, hot climate, hot weather. It's not going to be fun. So therefore, they added, or the opposite. If Yom Kippur is on a Sunday, someone dies on Shabbos, same idea. So they added a day. If that would happen, they add a day, push off Yom Kippur 1 day, or make Yom Kippur, basically separate Yom Kippur and Shabbos. So like this, you can have a day in between to bury the dead.
So mathematically, if you add 1 day at the beginning of the month, that's always going to happen. That you're going to split.
Not always. When needed. They looked at the calendar, it's Chavtes Elokei, and now we know that if you now count 11 days, it is going to be from the Chavtes Chasel, it's going to be Yom Kippur, and no, it's going to be Friday or Sunday. Like, let's add a day, and or make it basically that to push off a day. My benayo. What's the difference between these two shittas? Whether it's for vegetables to have good vegetables or bearing that. If Yom Kippur is on Sunday, so now this vegetables, what do you need the vegetables on Yom Kippur for? So you go take vegetables for Friday, eat it. If you need vegetables Yom Kippur, so after the fast, go grab more vegetables. But for that, you still have the issue. Those are the one that says says that because of the dead we want to bury the dead. We do add a day in Elul because we don't want to still have the chance to bury the dead. The one that says it because of vegetables. Who eats vegetables after fast anyways? Who eats vegetables after? You eat it? I don't know. Danish is this is why we break the fast on our shtickle mashkan and Danishes. So when do you need it by? You need it at night. Go outside in your backyard and grab some vegetables and eat it. Okay? But now, the one that has the opinion that we are pushing off only because of having fresh vegetables, would he not agree that if Shabbos and Yom Kippur fall out together, that we should push it off anyways because of the dead? It's still the issue. The issue still exists. The one that says that if Yom Kippur falls out after Shabbos, it's not a problem, but still push it off a day, Mishum Messiah. So the Gemarrah backtracks and says no. We're talking about Yontif, which is close to Shabbos. So either Yontif is on Friday or Yontif is on Sunday. So what happens? Again, you cannot use vegetables for 2 days, right? Vegetables 2 days doesn't work. So if one that says that for vegetables we push off, we're going to push off, separate Yontif, not to be Friday Shabbos or Shabbos Sunday, but for dead, on Yontif you're allowed to bury. On Yontif, according to, with a goy, you're allowed to bury the dead. So we do push it off. We add a day in El to separate from Shabbos. You can bury it with Amim, with Goyim. But again, the one that says that we make this ibah, we push it off because of the dead, would he not agree that in order to have fresh vegetables is good enough reason to add a day? Let him say that in such a case, I agree with the other guy. So the Gemarrah says no, he disagrees because you could wash it with hot or lukewarm water and refresh the vegetables, and therefore even let's say you pick the vegetables Friday, come Shabbos you have fresh vegetables. Shabbos night, Matzah Shabbos is Yontif. Wash the vegetables hot water and it will be refreshed. Don't know how, if it works. Try that in the kitchen, but that's what it says you can do. And therefore, some other actually say that it doesn't mean refreshing it, but it means cooking it. So cooking vegetables, and it creates some kind of something to eat. So you can still eat it. It's not going to be fresh vegetables, but at least it's food. Okay. Yeah, make a vegetable soup about it. So now that we established, okay, the reason why we push off the Yontif is either because of the dead or because of the vegetables, depending how you look at it, depending which Yontif. So now the question is, why did Ullah tell the Yidden in Bavel that the Yidden at Tzisrael did you a favor? They did themselves a favor. It's the same issue applies in Tzisrael. And for the Gemarrah, it's like let it done. I feel it do nami. What is the difference? That let it done for the Bavlim, it was a huge favor. Even if the Eden that soul was a huge favor. And for the Gemarrah, let it done chavil on alma in Bavel, because it was lower. It was in a valley. It's very humid. The humidity was suffer. You know, they couldn't. No.
That's worse.
Yeah.
So even the Chamamim wouldn't have helped the vegetables.
No, but for the dead body, it would have been terrible. The vegetables would have been terrible because the humidity would kill everything. It would even Chama wouldn't help. Can't wait. And at Etzisrael, it's more mountainous, so it's more airy. It's not as humid. It's hot, but it's not as humid. It's not as hard. It's not as difficult. Okay. There's something here. Basically, Tosfos here asks a question, a simple question. The Gemarrah said that Mam Ukva said a statement that Adar is always 29 days. The Gemarrah asks a question: if Adar is always 29 days, how come the Mishnah Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph says that you could be Mechal Shabbos for Rosh Chodesh Nisan? If you know when Rosh Chodesh Nisan is going to be, how can you be Mechal Shabbos? Tosfos says you can ask another question also, which I mentioned. You can ask a question in the Mishnah, the previous Mishnah, that says that is send out messengers, not Eidim, messengers. Once we know when the Rosh Chodesh Adar is, we send out messengers to Rosh Chodesh Adar for Purim and Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It's the same question applies. If you know when that Adar is always going to be 29 days, you're going to know that when Pesach is. So why do you have to send messengers after Rosh Chodesh Nisan to let us know when Pesach is? And Tosfos basically answers. This is basically have to go with the Gemarrah. The Gemarrah eventually knocks down this whole statement. So the Mishnah goes according to that knocked down. So basically what Tosfos is saying, that we're going, that whole statement was knocked down. The Mishnah, the previous Mishnah, and the following Mishnah go according to that we don't know when Rosh Chodesh Nisan is going to be. Okay, let's go weiter. Now, we mentioned that comes Elul, we can add a 30th day if we calculate that it'll be Yom Kippur, will be right before or after, or Rosh Hashana. We just said we can add a day. How do you say that you can add a day to basically offer a service for the community that you can bury the dead or eat fresh vegetables? It's not true. You cannot add a day in a month just for your own needs. Rabbi Shmuel said, it says in the Rashi says in the heading, there's many reasons why the Chacham decide to add a full month of Adar. Maybe the season doesn't align, or whatever it is. But the Gemara is asking, maybe just like you can add a full month of Adar, so every month that you can decide whether to add a day or not. That the same way you can add a month in the year because the community needs it. Maybe you could say the same thing, that every month you can make it 30 days. Talmud loimar, no. A chodesh is new. The new moon, this new moon that you see now, when you see this moon, when you see this moon, you have to mekadosh it right away. Okay? If you have mekadosh it right away, you can just add whenever you decide. So basically, he's asking a question that just before we said it, Elul, if needed, you add a day. And now we say that you can add a day. What do you want? Even if you need it, you can add a day. As soon as you see the moon, you have to go to Bezdin and say, you saw the moon in its Bekudesh. It's not difficult. In the beginning, when we want to add a day, la'abli is called ibul, making it pregnant, making it adding a day. Lekachoy is to be mekadosh it before the time. What does that mean? Comes the 29th day of Elul, and you make a calculation, and you see that Yom Kippur is going to fall out, and it's going to be a problem. Sunday, Friday. So then you could add a day. La'abla you could add. But what happens if Chavtes El shows up, and you know if the Eidim come the next day, and they make Rosh Chodesh the 31st day, then Yom Kippur is going to be a problem. So instead of waiting till the Eidim come, we say, today's 29 days, let's make a Chodesh tomorrow, and that's it. That's Lakachoy. To be Mekadesh, the Chodesh, before the Eidim come, and make it a short month, in 29 days. So Lakachoy, that you can't do. Because Kozer Kadesh, you have to see the moon and then you be Mekadosh. Okay, you have to have seen the moon. You cannot be Mekadosh the moon before you've seen it. So the Kacha, to make the Chodesh a day early before Eidim came, before it was seen, that you can do. So that's the statement of Shmuel. That's the statement of Rabbi Shmuel. This is what Rabbi Shmuel said. Would you say that it's just like you can make the year a little bit longer by adding a month, or the month longer by adding a day, let's say if there's a need, the same way you can also make Mekadosh, meaning you can make it shorter by a day before you saw the moon. You have to have seen the moon in order to be Mekadosh the Chodesh. Basically, and you'll see the Gemarrah is going to continue, that once the Eidim saw the moon, you could push it off a day. Once they saw the moon, it's no problem to push it off a day. Even though they saw the moon Thursday night, they can still make Chodesh and Shabbos. Technically, the Chodesh should have been a Friday, because there the El Kadesh means you have to have seen the moon. But you don't have to make the Chodesh the next day. You could push it off a day if needed. But if they haven't seen the moon, there's nothing, there's nothing, you didn't see anything, you can't Mekadosh anything. That's what the Gemarrah is going to say. The Gemarrah is basically bringing a proof. This is what Shiur ben Levi said. We threaten, we harass, we intimidate the Eidim. Basically, the Eidim saw that they saw the moon 29th at night, so the next morning will be the new month. But the Chacham made a calculation and saw that if they make it 29 days, then the next month is going to be an issue. So we can threaten them, we can intimidate the Eidim until they basically backtrack, until they say wasn't sure, someone else comes, or until they schlep out the side, until the next day comes. Even though he saw it on the 30th, the night of the 30th, to add another day to make Rosh Chodesh 30 days, and Rosh Chodesh will be the 31st day. But however, we do not threaten the Eidim if it was not seen to be Mekadosh. So here, okay, we cannot threaten Eidim. We cannot say, oh, make sure you saw it if you didn't really see it. So this is what Shiur ben Levi is saying as a proof that this happens. If you want to make it a day early, you can. If you want to make it a day late, once you saw the moon, you can do that if needed. That's not true. This is not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Tosfos says it's Rabbi Yehuda from the times of Moedim. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya sent Rav Ami. This was a different Rabbi Yehuda, was also called Nasiya on the time of the Amoedim. Yeah. It says, "Ein ze Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya shehita Hashem perek ein mamidin shel Merav Shmuel dahu b'noi shel Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi v'hay da'ach talmid shel Rabbi Yochanan." This is a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. This Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was under the rulership of Rabbi Shmuel. Anyways, so it says Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya sent Rav Ami a message. Hevu yoidim, you should know. Shekol yom shel Rabbi Yochanan, on all the days of Rabbi Yochanan, hayu melamdeinu, he would teach us. You threaten, intimidate witnesses about a new moon that was not seen. The new moon was not seen, and we threaten the Eidim somehow to tell them that they saw the moon, tell them basically to lie. So the Chananel explains it with a little bit different. It says no. Basically, what if the Eidim come and say they saw it the 29th at night, so 30th would be the Chodesh. And then they start having questions. Maybe I saw a cloud in the shape of a moon. Maybe I wasn't sure. So once, and we know the cheshbon is today, next morning has to be a Chodesh. So then once they say I saw something, we intimidate them until they say, yeah, we actually saw the moon. But we're not going to make them lie. We're not intimidating anyone to lie. So says Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya of Ami, Rabbi Yochanan would say that you can intimidate Eidim on a chodesh that they are not sure if they saw or not, bizmanoi lekacha, to make it on the 30th day. Even though they didn't really see it, meaning even though they say that, I'm not sure if I saw it or not, you make a chodesh on the 30th day. So here we see that we do intimidate to make it a day early. That this question is not a question because Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, in the name of Ami, in the name of Yochanan, that was done Nisan and Tishrei because of the calculations. But but that would also intimidate to make sure if they said they saw something, to make sure they saw a full moon. But the other months, the rest of the year, we only intimidate to push it off a day. Okay, so now basically, you had a question that you add a day. We said in the Gemarrah before, we add a day in Elul to make sure that because of dead, because of vegetables, you add a day. How is it possible? It is possible because the Mishnah says clearly that you can threaten, intimidate Eidim to make sure that you add a day. The Gemarrah says a different answer. Omar Abaya. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. Rav Amar. This goes back to the original question. The original question was that Rabbi Shmuel said that the same way you're ma'abed, that you cannot make a day short. No, sorry. Shmuel's original statement was that you do not make an ibul chodesh. You do not add a day in a month, even if needed. Rava says a different answer. That's what Rabbi Shmuel said. He did not add a day. That is a one singular opinion of Acherim, the Meir. The Tanya Acherim said, "Ein ben atzeres la'atzeres." We had this Gemarrah, I believe, somewhere else. Ein ben atzeres la'atzeres. There is no difference between atzeres, between the Shavuos and Shavuos, between Rosh Hashana, Ela Dalet Yomim Bilvad. Only 4 days, because Acherim Meir held, was it of the belief that the months are always going to be 29 days and 30 days, 29, 30, 29, 30, 29, 30. If you calculate it, if it's 12 months, the difference between this Rosh Hashanah and next Rosh Hashanah is basically going to be 4 days of the week. So if Rosh Hashanah is 1 day Sunday, let's say for example, the next year is going to be a Wednesday. It's going to be 4 days Thursday. What if it's an Ibiyah? What if there's an extra Adal? But it's exactly that way. And therefore, if it's always exactly that way, unless Eidim come and show you that they saw the moon at a different time, in such a case, we don't add and subtract. That's the statement of Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel, that we don't add or subtract. But we disagree with Acherim. We don't say it's always 29:30. There's a little different. Say that Tevis and Shvat can be different. Tevis and Shvat can all be a little bit different. So therefore, we don't agree with that statement, and therefore you can add and subtract if you need it. It's a much simpler answer. Rav Dimi ben Ada Masni Ibra. Rav Dimi ben Ada learned the opposite. We intimidate witnesses when if the moon was not seen in time, lekacha, to make sure that the Chodesh becomes on the 30th day. Basically, if Eidim did not see it, 1 second. The same idea. If Eidim come and initially say we saw the moon, and then they say maybe we saw a sliver of a cloud, we threaten them to make it. If as soon as they say that they saw it on the 29th at night, we threaten them and we intimidate them to make sure that we are mekadosh the chodesh right away. But once you saw the moon, really, you do not push it off a day. My timer. This looks like a lie. If it was seen in the right time, and then you start pushing them around until it delays a day, it looks like a lie. And this one does not look like if they saw it on the 29th day and then they're not sure, it doesn't look like a lie. So that was Rav Dimi's answer on the question of Rabbi Shmuel. We're going to finish with this statement. This is going to go into thick of Kiddush HaChodesh. Shmuel said a massive, huge statement. Yochilna letekuna lekula goyla, because we live in Golus and we are dependent on the shluchim that come from Etzal. I can avoid this entire issue with having shluchim come tell us. I can give you a calendar from now until the end of times, exactly when the moon is going to show. Yochilna letekuna lekula goyla. I can make a tikkun, and everyone is going to know exactly when the Yontif is, when the Chodesh is. Amalei Abba Avur the Rab Simloi. Abba, the father of Rab Simloi, Shmuel turned to Shmuel and said, Yoda ma haimilsa ratani b'soid ibel. Does the master know this item that is taught in the soid ibel? So soid ibel is technically soid is a secret. Back in the days when it was not known widely, it was considered a secret. Not everyone knew exactly how to calculate with the moon. Later on, when Besdin was in this battle and there was no more Kiddush HaChodesh, according to the witness, then this Soida was revealed and it became there wasn't a secret anymore. But the Abba, the father of Simlai, turned to Shmuel and asked him a simple question. In this whole calculation business of calculating the moon, there's a certain thing that it says, and we're going to discuss that in detail next time. What does it say there? Noilat koidim chatzos or noilat achatzos? It would make a huge difference if the moon was born before chatzos or after chatzos. Do you know that detail? He turns to Shmuel. So Shmuel says, Amalei, no, I don't. So he says, Amalei midahalei adamal, ikem midachinach anaiset le'adamal. If you don't know this detail, there must be a lot more details that you don't know. And how can he say that you can be ma'aben? The next one is going to go on to explain this, and that's when the thick of Kiddush HaChodesh starts.